Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Animal. I am the host, Mel. It's only appropriate considering that Halloween is around the corner, so I have some horror thriller suggestions for you all. I'm sure that you're already trying to get into the spooky Halloween mood, and you're watching shows and movies like Hocus Pocus 2, because who doesn't love nostalgia? But if you're looking for anime-specific ones that are going to get you into the spooky mood, this video is for you. This is the second iteration of this video, so if you're interested in other ones after you finish watching it, I have another video that I released last year. It was actually my first video on other thriller, horror, suspense-esque like anime shows. But this time I've got a new set of horror, thriller, suspense, or even just like spooky feels inspired vibes that will definitely get you into the Halloween mood before you dress up, go out, have fun with your friends, or trick or treat if you still trick or treat. This first anime graces the Crunchyroll streaming service by, the wonderful wonders, or however you feel about it, the wonders of the merger of Funimation and Crunchyroll. This one is called Wonder Egg Priority. When I first saw like the preview, or rather like the promotional like photo for this, I thought it would be something that was really lighthearted, something that was like very coming of age or slice of life, where it's about like friendship amongst like all of these young teenage girls that are kind of displayed within the promotional videos and photos. However, I took the time to watch Wonder Egg Priority recently because it was on my list for a very long time. Didn't have Funimation, came to Crunchyroll, and I was like, yep, this is the first one that I'm going to watch from the additions of Funimation to Crunchyroll. And let me tell you, I was dumb wrong. Like, super wrong. This show definitely borders on the fantasy, sci-fi, thriller-esque side, and word of caution for you all who may be sensitive to this type of content, there's definitely a lot of messaging around mental health and suicides. So if you're sensitive to that type of content, I highly suggest that you like skip Wonder Egg Priority. Even though it's an animation, it's still like very heavy content, so like skip that if that's not your vibe or you're sensitive to that type of messaging. However, the main crux of the story, very like, I would say structured around like the concepts of mental health, especially what teenage girls or teenagers in general go through in terms of like their mental health. But they add a like fantasy-esque like sci-fi element to it, where you've got these four girls who come together and kind of build this type of friendship on friends that they've lost to suicide, namely other teenage girls that they've been friends with that have committed suicide. However, it kind of takes like a turn of events where they meet like this really mysterious like beings, and they have an opportunity, I guess, to like save their friends. It's very like weird and abstract when you first watch it, but it's like very thrilling and suspenseful. Also, the type of monsters that they fight, because in order for them to save their friends or bring them back to life, which at first I was like, how does this even get done? This is insane. But if we're doing this, all right, I'm here for it. I'm along for the ride. So in an effort to revive like the friends that they have had that have committed suicide, and in that timeline of events has also impacted each of these other girls' mental health. They have to fight monsters to do so, and these monsters are like creepy as shit. Like, not creepy in the sense like, you probably will have nightmares, but creepy in the sense as in you didn't expect it from like the very soft, cute animation that Wonder Egg Priority like seduces you with up front. For those of you who enjoy a good isekai or being transported to another world type of anime, ReZero is another one on this list. Now, if you've watched ReZero before, I'm sure you can understand why I've added this to the list of spooky theme-esque anime shows. It may not seem spooky, it may not seem like a thriller, it may not seem like a suspense, but there are definitely some horrific moments when you watch ReZero. ReZero follows our main character around Natsuki Subaru, or Subaru Natsuki, and basically he just ends up in another world, but for some reason we don't get context as to why. I've seen the show up until date and I still don't know why, so we're just gonna move on from that, okay? So Natsuki Subaru gets teleported into a new world and he's like, cool, you know, this is awesome, I must be in a new world, because he's a shut-in NEET and doesn't do anything with his life, and he just lazes around and doesn't go to school. I think he's in college or something like that, and he just doesn't go to school. Cool. Great protagonist right off the jump, right? Anyway, so upon coming to this world, he gets really excited at the idea of being in another world, and he's kind of trying to like find his way, find his bearings, because that's all you can do. Like if you travel to another country, first thing to do is to, you know, figure out the language, figure out where you're going, get a map of the land, and just sort your situation out. So as he attempts to sort his situation out, he has a lot of mishaps to start, you know, not really bad ones. However, he ends up meeting this wonderful, beautiful half-elf woman and kind of instantly falls in love with her at first sight, you know, very strange, you know, very sudden for a first episode. There's a lot going on here, but actually I think the first episode was 1 hour, now that I think about it, so keep that in mind. So as he finds this girl, falls in love with her, kind of like makes acquaintances with her, like becomes friends with her, I don't know what the situation is. They stumble into like this cabin where she's like in trouble and she's about to get killed. Yeah, so things get very dark really fast. I will say for that reason, like this has like that spooky element to it. So if you like dark shit, this is it. And as events progress within the very first episode, in an attempt to help and save her life, he has no skills, he has no weapons, he just arrived in this world. Don't think that he suddenly got superpowers like a bunch of other isekais. He's got nothing. No skills whatsoever, no training, no fighting, the list goes on. So he gets killed. And it's like, oh shit. Hold on a second. How the f are you gonna kill your main character in the first episode? This isn't Attack on Titan. Nope. So what are we gonna do with the rest of the show? Well, come to find out that Natsuki Subaru, or Subaru Natsuki, has some sort of ability that he acquired when he got isekai to this new world. He can basically respawn from his save point. For those of you who play video games, I think you totally understand what I mean. But when you're playing a game, you have the opportunity at times to save before like fighting the big boss or going on a big quest that you know is going to be challenging. And in case you die, you want to be able to return to a safe spot where you can continue the journey or retry the journey again. Essentially, this is what happens to our main character. He dies and he gets revived at the same spot that he started at when he first came to this new world. So it turns into like this really big trial and error thing where within the first episode or two, we see him die a bunch of times, trying to like, you know, figure this out. First, he feels like he's having a Groundhog Day situation. Then he starts to understand what's kind of going on. So in order for him to actually, you know, get on with his life and get to the next day, he has to basically like pass the test or pass the mission or achieve the quest. So like it's very interesting in that context, and you may be still wondering where I'm going with this, but our main character, what really sucks about this is that while we play video games and we know our characters die and it's like, okay, cool, that's the end of it. For Natsuki Subaru, he actually feels every ounce of the pain every time he dies. And it starts to like fracture his like mental state to the point where like our protagonist has some like deep-rooted, seated issues where you start to wonder, is this really our protagonist? Is he supposed to be the main character? Is he really the hero? Because I'm starting to feel otherwise. And there are other times in which he gets so desperate in a means to try and rectify some quests or mission situations that go horribly awry, where he'll kill himself. Yeah, and the way that he kills himself sometimes is like brutal. It's like, dude, are you really about to do that to yourself? Like, I get it, you're about to come back to life again and respawn from your save point, but that is gonna hurt. So it's like those types of elements, just the darkness in it, and like it's very gory and bloody. Those types of elements, like, definitely gives it that little spooky, weird thriller, suspense-ish vibe. That is why it belongs on this list. But in addition to that, the villains of the story, very fascinatingly enough, are the 7 sins. And if you don't know what the 7 sins are, that's like pride, greed, envy, wrath, lust, gluttony, and sloth. So these are kind of like some of the villains in the story that they have to go up against, and they all have like really up seated issues, considering that they're all like avatars of the sins. So they like demonstrate these aspects of their personality that's just twisted as shit. While this next one is technically an isekai because our main character Yuri Honjo gets teleported to another world, it's not really quite as magical as ReZero. Highrise Invasion is staged in a world where it's kind of like a survival of the fittest situation, and our main character Yuri Honjo gets like teleported there, and we're kind of introduced to her like on a skyscraper, and this masked person, and I'm talking about like a mask kind of like those like Scream masks, if you've ever seen the movie Scream, except you just attach it on and they have different emotions on them. It's creepy and weird. So we're immediately introduced like within the first 5 minutes of her kind of like being chased by someone in a mask and trying to get killed. So if that doesn't scream like horror, tropey movies to you, then I don't know what you categorize horror as. However, this like is the epitome of like almost every single American horror film I've seen. Someone in a mask trying to murder a young girl, a teenager, or a young woman, or any type of woman, quite frankly, to be honest. And yeah, so here we are. Highrise Invasion. Back to the point, right? So Yuri Honjo is trying to like get away from this masked person, and come to find out that each of these masks, as we progress through the story, and kind of like within the first episode or two, they explain that they're kind of like in this game, I don't know, it's game or something, in which they have to kind of like survive getting attacked by people in masks, and these people in masks are basically brainwashed to follow certain commands and actions. There's like a program in the mask that they're wearing. It's trippy, and each mask has a facial expression that has a different command, but I'm not gonna get into those. You should just watch it. So she's getting attacked, and you have like 3 options in this world, okay? You have 3 options. Your option is to be killed, kill, the people who are attacking you, or commit suicide. Yes, it's another one. You know what I noticed? A lot of the shows I've mentioned so far have a lot of suicide in it. So let's just say almost everything on this list, there's a healthy dose of be careful if you are susceptible to this type of content, whether it's animated or not. Still be mindful of your mental state. You only have 3 options, and you can pick up weapons to defend yourself and survive this world. The objective of this world is to become the god of the realm or something of that nature. Sounds very like Lord of the Rings-ish or some shit like that. And so like you have to find the right mask that grants you godlike abilities or godlike powers. While extremely bloody, I will say that there's definitely a lot of action that you'll enjoy while watching this, especially being that our main character is female, and some other protagonists that come along for the ride are also female. So it's a nice change in pace when it comes to a really violent, bloody action anime. And I will say, even though they are our female protagonists and essentially heroes of the story, there's quite a lot of fan service that I don't love. So I'm just gonna let you know that when you watch it, there may be some cringy like panty shots and stuff like that. This next one is not necessarily really horror-esque or like thriller or suspense. It's definitely more action-packed, But what makes it very like spooky vibe-ish is that the town in which this anime is based in looks like Halloween Town or like the night before Christmas. I think this anime was very much inspired by the Nightmare Before Christmas. So Soul Eater, and meanwhile, Soul Eater also has another fantastic female protagonist, but no fan service, so check. It basically is staged around like this Halloween-esque town where these younger individuals, I want to say teenagers, let's just say that, attend this school. This school in which you have a maester who wields a weapon, and this weapon can turn into a human at times, so they're like a humanoid weapon. And essentially they go to school in order to become like protectors of the town that they're in. I think it's called Death Town. And the like the principal of the school is like a Shinigami or like a Reaper essentially, but he looks really goofy. So there's a lot of comedy elements to this. So if you don't like any of the other shows that I suggested on the list because they were too dark or too gory or whatever the case may be, or the content matter is something that you're sensitive to, Soul Eater is something that you probably won't feel in that context. It's a little bit more fun. There's a lot more action, definitely some comedy. The characters are really quirky, and you've got like a female protagonist that they're not like fan servicing all over the place, and has really strong qualities and like a strong personality. So to the plot of Soul Eater, because I'm sure that's pretty important to you, right? Soul Eater, you've got all these kids that are attending a school, and all of these kids are tasked with turning their weapons into like death weapons. Death weapons means that these weapons are now eligible to be used by the Reaper of the school, which makes them like a lot more powerful, and they just scale up in power. You get my drift, right? And in order for them to do that, they have to defeat evil humans who end up like harboring like these evil souls. Like when they defeat these people, there's like this red soul that comes out of them or something of that nature, and then the weapons have to essentially eat those souls, and they have to eat like 99 of them along with one witch. And so this kind of sets up the premise for like majority of the show's story, where you've got this one witch, her name is Medusa, and she's basically just trying to destroy the world like any person. So this is a very like typical villain story, like let's destroy the world, or let's, you know, release evil and whatever, you get what I mean? And it ends up wreaking a lot of havoc on the school, the students of the school, disrupting basically their school process in which they're trying to achieve making their weapons death weapons. So it's a long journey, but the plot is pretty much the same or stagnant, with different levels of it or different like mini bosses along the way. But they've got a lot of comedy elements into it, so you can still laugh while getting into a Halloween mood, because the whole vibe screams Halloween. Just like the way characters are designed are very like, I guess you could say like it feels like costumey, or like feels like horror-y or Halloween-y. Like, I guess the best way that I can put it is like, if you were to dress kids up in something, how would they look like? More along those veins. So it's something fun, action-packed, and very like entertaining to watch, story plot-wise, and the fights are actually really freaking cool. One of the anime on this list must have captured your attention, so hopefully you end up watching it after you finish watching this video. If not, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, there was another video that I created last year that if you want more, you can watch that and get a sense of what other horror thriller-esque animes live out there in the universe. But that's gonna do it for me today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you have a very happy Halloween and that one of these shows gets you geared up for Halloween. So until next time, I'm your host Mel. Bye.